Hello and welcome back to my channel. So today, as you can tell, I'm filming from an extraordinarily weird angle because I've got my little Bubba in my arms, and because I have the baby and it is actually a little bit harder to film videos whilst I have him, I decided that I would just film this intro for a bunch of Thermomix slash Supercook slash Bellini, whichever machine you have, Smith& and Noble. There's a million thermal cookers out there. And basically I get requests a lot to do more tutorials of what kinds of things you can make with your machine. So what I'll do is for each video, I'll have this intro explaining what the machine is and how it works and what it does. But if you want to skip and go straight to the recipe that's in this video, I'll put on the screen right now what time to go to skip right to that recipe. All right. So if you're still here, I'll explain what a thermocooker is. So if you haven't heard of thermocookers, they're going to change your life. If you're anything like me, I'm very time poor. I often either have someone I'm looking after, or I don't have a lot of time after work, or I just don't have a lot of patience when it comes to food. I'd rather use lots of times that I have to cook to be with my little baby. And so I don't want to be standing there at the stove or watching things or checking things on the oven, that kind of thing. And so for me, the thermocooker has been a brilliant way for me to try a bunch of different foods that I never would have tried before and save myself tons of time a lot of the time. And so these recipes that I'm going to show you through these series is going to be basically some of my favorite go-to recipes, things that I never thought I'd make necessarily, but because I have a thermocooker, it's easy. So what is a thermocooker? So a thermocooker, firstly, they go by a lot of different names. The popular ones, or the more popular ones here in Australia, are the Thermomix. Thermomix is like the, brand name fancy one, and those ones cost anywhere between like $2,000 to $3,000. And then they have lower end ones, or I wouldn't even say lower end. They have different machines. And so the next one up that I can think of that you can get is a Supercook, which is what I have. And those retail anywhere between $600 to I think about $1,000. And so I got mine for $600. And that was part of one of those deals where if there's enough people who go for like a interest thing, then they'll ship them to the country. So I went into one of those and love it. Yeah. And then the next one that you can get is called the Smith& and Noble or Bellini. They're basically the same machine, but they had two different companies, I think, that were making them at one point. And so I had a Bellini for years. So I had my secondhand $50 Bellini for about 3 years before I decided I absolutely loved it and wanted to get the Supercook because for the Supercook, it had built-in recipes. I could add recipes of my own. It had built-in scales. It had one blade. So going into what the machine itself actually does, lots. So that's the short answer. The long answer is basically anything that you can do on a stove, and basically anything that you could do with a lot of appliances like a rice cooker, or a blender, or like a slicing machine of some kind, you can pretty much do in a thermocooker. So for example, it can steam vegetables, it can cook you rice, it can make the mix for jam, it can make rice pudding, it can roast a small turkey, it could make risottos, make soup, it can make all kinds of things. And the whole point of it really is that it's an all-in-one, in essence, machine. So basically it can do quite a few things. It chops, it blends, it steams, it cooks, it sautés, and it's all in the one machine. And then at the end, it's pretty much a self-cleaning machine because you can just take whatever it is that you made in it and then pour in water and some dish soap, whiz it up on 2.5 minutes at 90 degrees Celsius at like speed 2, and then it pretty much just about cleans itself. And so to have a machine that does all the work for you, you don't have to constantly stir, don't have to check on it. Yeah, it's pretty exciting. And so I love it. Like, I'm known to make rice pudding, which I'd never made before, and I quite frankly don't know how to make it without this machine. I've done a tutorial on that one before. That was the first thing I ever tried. And basically, I just set it on the time that it needs, the temperature it needs, and the speed that it needs. I pre-make the mix of stuff. So I pre-make the bag of rice and sugar and stuff that it needs. And then I just pour in a liter of milk, turn on the machine, and then I go for a shower. And so I come out of my shower and I clean this one, and I put him down to bed, and then I come down to this beautiful, perfect, every single time rice pudding. And so that's just a small explanation of what this machine does. So basically, if you can do it on the stove, you can basically do it in this machine, and it just is a time saver, and it's helpful for people like me in terms of disability. So if you have trouble chopping, or you have trouble mixing, or you have just, arthritis like I do, I find it so helpful that it can do all the things that just don't come easily to me. Like I cannot hold a ladle and stir. That is quite difficult for me. And I can't chop that easily. Holding a knife is, similar difficulties. So this machine just basically takes away a lot of the hassle I find in cooking. Other people love it just because if you're not very good at cooking, it can be very easy just to follow the step-by-step procedure in this machine, where you just say, okay, this temperature for this many minutes, important, in exactly this much ingredients, and just let it do its thing. A lot of people find that really helpful and really easy, which I can understand, because it honestly feels like a no-fail machine. I don't think I've had anything, not work in it. Yeah. Yeah, he just wants some cuddles. All right. And so in terms of the machine itself, I'm a big fan, and I often, like I said, get asked on this channel to put some more recipes up, because at the moment, at the time of filming this, and like I said, this will probably be the intro for a lot of videos for the next few months. Basically, I've just done like risottos and rice pudding and pasta dishes, all-in-one pasta dishes, which are so fantastic and easy to do. And so the machine won't necessarily always save you time, because some of the recipes obviously do, require you to constantly be putting things in and setting the machine at different temperatures and different speeds for different times. But it basically lets you cook things that you may never have cooked before. Like, I have never made a risotto in like real life. I've only made it in the thermal cooker, and it comes out perfect every time. So that is what a thermal cooker is. That is what a thermal cooker does. I'm, like I said, going to use this intro to show you a few things that I've been making here at home on my maternity leave. And that's the other thing I love, if you're busy, breastfeeding, or if you're busy running after a toddler, or if you're busy, soothing a crying baby, you can just have this machine run in the background doing its thing, and still have a yummy meal despite not having, necessarily the time to do it. So I'm a huge fan. Baby's a huge fan. I also make his baby food in there. So comment down below if you want to see what kind of things I make for his baby food, because I basically make things, then freeze them into little sections for a baby to eat. And that way it's cheaper for me, it's better for me. I know what's going into my little Bubba's food, and I get the satisfaction that I made it. So thank you so much in advance for watching. I hope this tutorial is helpful, and I hope that it's easy enough to see what to do. But basically, with any thermal cooker machine you're using, there are 3 functions. 1, the cooking temperature. So I'll always tell you in the recipe tutorials what the cooking temperature is. On some machines, and it varies from machine to machine, sometimes over 100 degrees, they call it something different. Some machines you'll see ST, that's steaming temperature. So if I say above 100 degrees and yours doesn't show anything above 100 and you just get like ST, pick that. But if I say ST on my machine, because I think I did a few tutorials when I had the machine that said ST after 100 degrees, then just pick like 110 degrees for instead of ST. And then the second part of the machine, next to the temperature dial, is the time dial. And so that tells you how long you're going to cook. So if I say cook for 2 minutes, you set your timer on the machine to 2 minutes. And then the third thing is the speed. And so again, depending on what machine you have, things might be different. So for me, for speed, there's only really one thing I need to do. If it says speed 2, I put speed 2. If it says speed 6, I put speed 6. Things you need to know that different machines have different safety measures. So on some machines, if your machine is above a speed 4, you can't be above a certain temperature for safety reasons. It just basically prevents you from, spattering yourself with boiling hot water, which is fair. So it depends from machine to machine what exactly it does or does not let you do for speed and temperature. Then, sorry, I'm like falling out of the screen, but I have Bubba trying to get into the screen. And so, baby, gotta stay this way. All right. Then in terms of the blades inside the machine, Thermomixes and my Supercook and some other machines only have the one blade. And so if you only have the one blade, that means that when it's going around the main way, it slices and you're using the sharp side of the blade. If you put it on reverse, or if the recipe asks for reverse, that means that you want the spinning to go backwards so that you can get the blunt side of the blade, meaning that it won't chop up things. So this would be important in things like, if you're mixing something, but you don't necessarily want to chop it up. Like, so if you have a mince, you don't necessarily want to be mincing your mince into like mush, and you just want to stir, then you'd want the reverse. You'd want the blunt blade. In other machines, you have a separate blade to do that. So you'd have, you'd switch between your sharp blade and your blunt blade, which I found annoying, which is also part of the reason why I got a Supercook. So if you see reverse, often that means switch to your blunt blade if you don't have the reverse function. All right, so I hope that was a fairly clear explanation of the machine. That was a very long explanation, but like I said, though, that's why I put the time where the recipe starts at the very beginning, because if you already know all of this and you already understand your machine, great, good on you, welcome to the club. And what you'll see next is the recipe, and I hope you enjoy. Thank you so much for watching. Bye. $150 grams of chocolate chips, 200 grams of butter, and 150 grams of brown sugar, 120 grams of white castor sugar, and 70 grams of honey. And so you're going to add all of that into your bowl of butter and chocolate. Alright, so we have the chocolate in there, whatever chocolate you want. I'm using dark chocolate chips. Dark chocolate, butter, brown sugar, castor sugar, and honey. You can also use molasses instead of honey if that's what you have. So that's all dumped inside there and measured for what I wanted. So now I'm going to mix it for 50 degrees for 6 minutes and on speed 2. And so let's get that started. It doesn't have to be on reverse blade, but I just tend to put it on reverse if I don't need to chop anything. Alright, so that is the consistency of the batter at the moment. So most of the chocolate has melted, and same with the butter, and it's all mixed through, and it's kind of like a molasses type mixture at the moment. Now we're going to add in our 4 eggs, 200 grams of plain flour, and 30 grams of cocoa, and put that all into the bowl. All right, we have our 4 eggs in there, 200 grams of flour, and 30 grams of cocoa. And so that's all in my bowl with the rest of the stuff that we mixed before. And we're gonna turn that on for 15 seconds on speed 4. All right, that's everything from the jug into this greased silicone cooking pan that I'm using. And I'm going to put it in the oven for 15 minutes on 180 degrees, and then that will make it slightly not quite fully cooked, which is fine. You don't want it to be dry and super done. You want it to be slightly moist and undercooked when it's finished. And so I'll show you what it looks like when it comes out of the oven, and then that will take us to the next step, which is the cheesecake topping. Alright, so this is my jug, so I'm just going to fill it with some water and soap, and then put it on 100 degrees for 2.5 minutes on speed 2 or 3, and that will just get all this cleaned out for me. So self-cleaning option in case you didn't already know about it, and so that will clean the jug for me so that I can then use this to do the next step, which is the cheesecake topping. Alright, and for the last step, for the cream cheese topping, basically, that makes this a cream cheese brownie cheesecake, you're going to put in, I've already forgotten, hold on, butter, sugar, full cream, which I don't have, so I'm just going to use milk, and then cream cheese. Alright, so the measurements for the ingredients are 90 grams butter, 90 grams sugar, 500 grams cream cheese, and 50 grams of preferably full cream, but I don't have that, so I'm going to use full cream milk instead. And so we'll put this in for the final topping, and then I will show you what to do with your brownie that is currently cooking and nearly done. So that's my brownie that's been cooking for the better part of 15 minutes, so it's now about 5 to 10 minutes left, which will give me time to make the cream cheese topping, and then I'll show you the final product. Alright, so for me personally, I only actually had half of the ingredients left, and so I only had 250 grams of cream cheese, so I just divided everything by 2, and I'm just going to blitz it on speed 4 for about 2 minutes, and hopefully make a creamy-ish texture to go on the top. We'll see what happens. Alright, so this is a slightly thicker consistency than when it normally comes out when I actually follow the ingredients that I told you guys to follow, but definitely follow those and it'll end up something like this. I mean, it basically looks like creamy icing, which is fine. Mine's just slightly thicker than I normally make it, which again, totally fine, because it's icing basically. It's a cheesecake topping, but it's icing in essence, because this is going to go on top of this. And so this is my brownie base. So instead of like a cookie base that some people use for cheesecake, it's a brownie base. It's just slightly undercooked, so you can tell because when you shake it, it's just a little bit jiggly. So that's me jiggling it. And so that's just on the stovetop here, cooling off. I normally don't, completely wait for it to cool off, because that just makes it easier for me to pour the cream cheese filling on top, and the heat will kind of make the cream cheese filling smooth over the top more easily, so it works for me to do it while it's hot, so I don't really wait. So if you want to pour your topping onto the cheesecake, the brownie cheesecake base, then you'll have your 2 layers, and then what will happen is you're just going to stick it in the fridge overnight for like 6 to 8 hours at least to let it completely set. And then tomorrow, which is my birthday, which is why I'm making this video for you guys, so I've just made this for a yummy dessert for myself, so it'll be ready for tomorrow for me to eat, and I'll show you once I take it out of the fridge tomorrow, like fun designs that you can do on the top. So I've made some jam that you can make some fun hearts with on top, so I'll show you how I do that for you in just a second, but in reality, that will be tomorrow morning after this is set for at least 6 to 8 hours. Alright, see you in a second. Alright, so it is the next day, and as you can see from this pan now, I'll just kind of turn it here, it's like one hard mass. So that's what you want it to be. It's meant to be like this solid thing now that doesn't move. So that's exactly what it's supposed to be. And I'll show you what it looks like in like cheesecake form in a second. But if you want to decorate it, you absolutely can. And so what I've been doing is I've been making my own jam in my Supercook / Thermomix. And if you put like just little dots basically of your jam, Papa's very enthusiastic about this. Okay, there we go. Dots of jam, all just kind of in here. Nothing fancy. It's just a little bit of smidge of an extra flavor. Alright, so there is my dots of jam, and then what I have is a skewer, so you can use like a toothpick or whatever, but you basically just want to go into the first dot of jam and drag. It's definitely not working the way I anticipated, but anyways, it's supposed to make like little hearts. Mine are coming out like little crazy blobs. But you get the idea. You can kind of do what you want, and with more skill than me, have some little decorations. Like it's meant to be like a heart. Last time it worked so easily, I didn't think I had to do anything. So, not quite sure what I did differently last time from this time. But anyways, now my dots are weird teardrop blobs. So, anyways, and I got a singular pretty heart. So. Anyways, if you are more skilled in this, then you can do that on top if you want, or do something else. On top, you can like, crush some, Oreos or something and make pretty designs or whatnot. Otherwise, you can just leave it and then serve it. So what I'm going to do now is cut a piece for my birthday and then do like maybe a slow fancy montage of my slice of cake, and then I'm going to eat it. So I hope this tutorial was easy and yummy and works for you. Comment below if you end up making it, and or if you want to see some sort of tutorial for something else that you've been looking to make. And that is it for today. So I'm just going to have a nice drink and some nice cake for my birthday. See y'all next time.